Hello, and welcome to the Spicy Pod Sleep Stories. I am Michael, and tonight we step into a world of power, temptation, and unspoken desire. We follow Clara Voss as she makes a choice that will change her life forever. A contract with Damien Blackwell, the man they call the devil. In his mansion, secrets are revealed, tests are endured, and slow-burning passion ignites. Witness the fragile line between trust and surrender, danger and desire, as two people discover that the true deal is not about money or control. It is about the heart. Clara Voss sat on the edge of her threadbare couch, staring at the overdue bills stacked in front of her. Each envelope seemed to whisper the same thing. Impossible. Her brother's mounting medical bills, the rent she couldn't pay, the groceries she'd skipped buying this week, everything had piled up into a suffocating weight. The knock at the door startled her. A courier stood there, holding a thick envelope sealed with black wax, the insignia of a serpent entwined around a dagger stamped into the seal. No return address. Curiosity warred with caution. She sliced the wax open with a kitchen knife, revealing a single sheet of heavy cream paper. The words were written in flowing black ink. Clara Voss, your situation has come to my attention. I can provide the means to resolve it at a cost. You are summoned to 7 Westbourne Place at 7 p.m. tonight. Come alone. Her heart hammered. Who would, no, could ye, offer her such a thing? And what did they mean by at a cost? By evening, the city had cooled into a quiet, damp glow. She navigated cobblestone streets, shivering in her coat, wondering if she was walking toward salvation or a trap. The mansion loomed before her, all glass and dark stone, silent but commanding, as if it were aware she had arrived. The door opened before she could knock. A man stood there, tall, impeccably dressed, his presence sharp as the edge of a knife. Dark hair, piercing gray eyes, and an intensity that made the air thicken. Damien Blackwell. The name was whispered in the city's elite circles, always with a hint of fear. Now she understood why. Clara Voss, he said, voice low, measured, magnetic. You've come. I received your letter, she stammered. He gestured for her to enter. The foyer was immense, adorned with minimalistic luxury, polished black floors reflecting the glow of crystal chandeliers, rare artwork lining the walls. Not a single soul appeared to serve him. The mansion felt eerily empty, yet alive with his presence. You're in debt, he said, plainly, as if reading her mind. Your brother is ill. You're desperate. You need help. Clara swallowed. Yes, she admitted. He offered her a chair at a long black table. On it lay a contract, written in dark ink, each word precise, deliberate, binding. I can provide everything you need, he said, his eyes fixed on hers, piercing. Money, security, freedom for your brother. But there's a cost. You will live by my rules for 1 year. You will do as I ask, no questions, no hesitation. Do you understand? The words hung in the air like smoke. She wanted to flee, but every option outside that door had already failed her. What happens if I refuse? She whispered. He leaned back, faint smile touching his lips. Then you remain in chains, and I will do nothing. This is an offer, not a negotiation. Clara's fingers trembled as she reached for the pen. With a deep breath, she signed the contract. A strange thrill passed through her. Fear and anticipation tangled together. Damien's smile deepened. Welcome to your year in hell, he said softly, and for the first time, Clara felt that the devil himself might have been waiting for her all along. Clara followed Damien through the long, echoing hallways of his mansion. The air smelled faintly of leather and cedar, and the floors reflected their shadows like polished water. Despite the grand space, there was a precision to everything. Nothing out of place, nothing unnecessary. She could feel the weight of his gaze without it ever leaving her. He stopped before a pair of black doors and gestured for her to enter. Inside was a study lined with dark wood shelves, filled with books, rare artifacts, and framed photographs of unfamiliar landscapes. A heavy desk sat at the center, and atop it lay the contract she had already signed. Another copy, waiting for her attention. Damien pulled a chair for her, his movements deliberate, controlled. Read carefully, he said. Every word has meaning. There are no loopholes. I do not tolerate mistakes. Clara's fingers brushed the paper, and she felt the weight of the ink, the history of power behind it. The clauses were unusual. She would live in the mansion, follow his instructions, maintain discretion, and be available at his request. Personal errands, accompaniment to events, even mundane tasks. Some of it might seem unconventional, he said, watching her over the rim of his glass of water. Some of it may feel intrusive. That is intentional. This is not a contract for the faint-hearted. Are you sure you want this? She hesitated, thinking of her brother's hospital bills, the eviction notice, the constant anxiety that had become her life. She nodded. I'm sure. A faint, almost imperceptible smile crossed his lips. Good. Sign here, here, and here. Her pen scratched against the paper, each signature tightening the invisible bond between them. As she handed it back, Damien studied her like one might examine a rare gem, eyes sharp but unreadable. You understand, he said quietly, that this is not merely employment. It is a commitment. You are mine to direct within the bounds of this contract for 1 year. There is no escape. You will be challenged, tested, and pushed further than you expect. Her pulse quickened. There was danger in his words, but also an undeniable allure. The idea of surrendering herself to this man, knowing she could not question him, was terrifying, but also strangely intoxicating. He stood and circled the desk, stopping behind her chair. "This world," he whispered, "is not kind to those who falter, but it rewards courage. I will provide everything you need, and nothing you do will go unnoticed." Clara lifted her eyes to meet his. The gray of his gaze held a gravity she could not deny, a pull that seemed to reach inside her chest. She felt herself teetering on the edge of something she had never known, and something dangerous and yet undeniably thrilling. He offered his hand, a silent invitation. "Welcome to my world. Keep your wits and you may survive. Lose them and..." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "You will discover what it truly means to deal with the devil." The chill in his words sent a shiver down her spine. She took his hand, feeling the strength in his grip, the controlled intensity that radiated from him. And in that moment, she realized the danger, and the fascination was only beginning. Clara's first night in Damien Blackwell's mansion felt like stepping into another world. The valet had guided her to a suite that overlooked the city skyline, the lights below shimmering like distant stars. The room was large, minimalistic, and cold. Pristine white sheets, dark wood floors, and a bed so vast it seemed impossible to cross alone. Yet beneath the luxury she felt an undercurrent of control, a sense that every detail had been designed to remind her she was in his domain. She unpacked a few belongings, careful not to disturb the perfect symmetry of the room, then wandered to the floor-to-ceiling window. The city stretched below her, endless and indifferent. And for a moment, she imagined freedom, a life without debt, without fear, without Damien's piercing gaze following her every step. A soft knock at the door startled her. "Clara," a calm, measured voice said. It was Damien. He entered without waiting, moving with quiet authority, his presence filling the room. "Dinner," he said simply, "and a conversation." Clara hesitated, then followed him through hallways lined with art that seemed to watch her, into a dining room that gleamed with crystal and silver. He poured wine into 2 glasses and handed one to her without a word. "You must understand," he began, setting his glass down. "This mansion is not merely my home. It is a reflection of who I am, and who I am is complicated." She nodded, unsure how to respond. His eyes held a mix of curiosity and something darker, something hidden, and she felt as if he could see into the deepest corners of her mind. "I will not ask for your obedience out of cruelty," he continued. "I demand it because I can, because I know what most people cannot. They are weak. They falter. You are not like them." Her heart quickened at the implication, both unnerving and thrilling. She realized he wasn't simply testing her with words, he was probing, measuring her resolve, seeing how far she could withstand the weight of his world. After dinner, he led her on a tour of the mansion. The house was enormous, a labyrinth of hallways, private rooms, and secret alcoves. Every door seemed to hide something: an office filled with monitors, a library that smelled of old books and cedar, a music room left untouched but alive with the faint echo of someone who had once played there. "This will be your world now," Damien said quietly, stopping at the threshold of her suite once more. "And while you will have freedom within these walls, remember this: you do not dictate the rules. I do. You adapt or you falter. There is no in between." Clara felt the weight of his words press against her chest, and yet a thrill ran through her. She was in danger, yes, but in a way that was intoxicating. Her life, her freedom, her very heart in his hands. He lingered in the doorway, eyes fixed on her. "Rest tonight," he said. "Tomorrow, the real work begins. And trust me, Clara, it will be unlike anything you've ever experienced." As he left, the room felt impossibly quiet. The city lights twinkled below, and for the first time, she realized that she had stepped into a life where desire, danger, and temptation could intertwine, and that Damien Blackwell, the man they called the devil, would be the one guiding her every step. Alone, she sat on the edge of the bed and exhaled slowly. The mansion was beautiful, terrifying, and hers, for the time being. And somewhere deep inside, a tiny spark of excitement stirred, whispering that this was only the beginning. The following days blurred into a rhythm Clara hadn't expected. Damien's mansion was a world unto itself. Every hallway, every room, every glance seemed designed to test her, though she wasn't always sure what he wanted her to learn. He assigned tasks that seemed simple at first: arranging documents, accompanying him to business meetings, reviewing letters, but each carried an intensity that left her both drained and alert. "You notice details others miss," Damien said one evening as she catalogued a stack of papers in his office. "It makes you useful. It also makes you interesting." Clara paused, unsure whether to feel complimented or unsettled. His eyes, sharp and unyielding, didn't blink. "Interesting how?" she asked cautiously. He leaned against his desk, the soft glow of the desk lamp casting shadows across his face. "Interesting enough that I want to see how far you'll go, how much you'll endure, how far your courage stretches before it cracks." She swallowed, feeling a thrill she didn't quite understand. There was something magnetic about the way he spoke, the quiet command underlying every word. She felt exposed under his gaze, yet paradoxically protected. The mansion became a maze of tests. Some nights he had her accompany him to gala events where she was expected to remain silent, merely present, absorbing the subtle power plays and whispered alliances of high society. Other nights, he asked her to read documents, translate phrases, or even confront his staff on delicate matters. Challenge was subtle, designed to push boundaries, to see how she would respond under pressure. One evening, during a sudden thunderstorm, Clara wandered the hallways, restless and unable to sleep. The rain hammered against the windows, and the wind rattled the shutters. She found herself outside Damien's study, drawn by a force she couldn't explain. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, he was standing by the window, watching the storm. The room was dim, the only light coming from the sporadic flash of lightning. "Clara," he said without turning, his voice steady, "you shouldn't be here." "I couldn't sleep," she admitted, her voice small. "The storm." He finally looked at her, eyes gray and unreadable, yet something in them flickered. Curiosity, amusement, maybe even admiration. "You're not afraid of me anymore." She met his gaze, heart pounding. "Should I be?" A faint, almost imperceptible smile curved his lips. "Perhaps, but I enjoy that you aren't." The tension between them hung in the air, electric and unspoken. She realized with a sudden clarity that every interaction, every test, every glance from Damien Blackwell was a game, and she was as drawn to it as she was terrified. That night, as she returned to her suite, Clara understood something vital. This was not merely a contract, a job, or a temporary arrangement. It was an initiation into Damien's world, one where courage, desire, and subtle rebellion intertwined. And she had already begun to play the most dangerous game of all, capturing the attention of the devil himself. A single envelope arrived at Clara's suite the next morning, black wax again sealing a note written in Damien's precise script. 7 p.m. tonight. Black mask. Dress in midnight blue. Do not be late. Clara held the envelope in trembling hands. A masquerade ball. The words carried promise and threat in equal measure. She had no idea what Damien expected, only that he always had a reason, and stepping into his plans had become a strange necessity she could not resist. That evening, she stood before her mirror, brushing her hair into loose waves. The midnight blue gown clung to her in all the right places, elegant, understated, yet undeniably alluring. When she slipped on the mask Damien had provided, a strange thrill ran through her. Tonight, she would step into his world fully, and for the first time, feel his attention as both danger and desire. The carriage ride to the private club was silent. When they arrived, the mansion's black doors opened into a hall alive with candlelight, chandeliers reflecting against gilded walls, the soft murmur of music and laughter echoing like whispers. Guests moved gracefully, faces hidden behind masks, eyes sparkling in the dim glow. Damien led her by the hand, his touch firm, commanding, sending a shiver down her spine. The pressure of his hand was both a warning and an invitation, a reminder that in his world, nothing came without consequence, and yet everything came with a thrill. "Do you understand the rules?" he murmured, close enough that she felt his breath against her ear. "I think so," she whispered, heart hammering. He guided her to the dance floor, and as the music swelled, he pressed her close. Their bodies moved in harmony. And for the first time, Clara realized how powerful the chemistry between them had become. She could feel his strength, his precision, the faint warmth of his desire restrained just beneath the surface. "You dance well," he said quietly, and she could sense the unspoken meaning in his words. Not just the dance, her presence, her courage, the way she did not flinch under his gaze. When the music slowed, he leaned in, his lips brushing hers, a ghost of a kiss that lingered longer than expected. Her breath caught, a mixture of fear and exhilaration. He pulled back slightly, his eyes dark with control and curiosity. "Do not make the mistake of wanting me," he whispered. Clara's pulse raced. The warning sent a thrill through her, binding her fascination to the danger he embodied. And yet, even as he pulled her into the shadows of the ballroom, she realized she did want him. Every forbidden, intoxicating part of him. For the rest of the evening, they remained close, their movements a quiet dance of power and restraint. He would step back, assessing, teasing, testing her boundaries, and she, emboldened by the night, the music, the mask that allowed her a hint of freedom, would meet him step for step, unafraid, exhilarated, drawn deeper into his orbit. As the ball ended and the city slept beneath a soft, silvery moon, Clara understood that nothing would ever be the same. The devil had revealed a hint of himself, and the game had only just begun. Clara had begun to settle into the rhythm of Damien Blackwell's world, though nothing about it felt normal. Every hallway, every glance, every carefully measured word reminded her that she was not in a house, but in a carefully constructed universe where he ruled with quiet authority. She had begun to understand his tests, his challenges, and even his rare, fleeting smiles. Yet she was far from seeing all of him. One evening, curiosity pulled her toward a door at the end of the west wing. A door slightly ajar, its brass handle worn from frequent use. She hesitated, then pushed it open. Inside, the room was dimly lit, lined with shelves filled with photographs, paintings, and documents. It smelled faintly of old paper and cedar. Her eyes fell on a portrait of a woman. Beautiful, serene, eyes haunted. A nameplate below read, Evelina Blackwell. Her pulse quickened. Clara's fingers traced the frame, and she realized this was more than a room of memories. It was a private shrine. Footsteps echoed behind her. Damien's presence was immediate behind her, close enough that she could feel his heat. "I see you've found my secret," he said quietly, voice low but not unkind. I didn't mean to intrude," Clara whispered. "You didn't intrude," he said, turning to face her. His gray eyes, dark and unreadable, studied her like he was weighing her worth. "Some things I hide not because they are shameful, but because they are mine. Not everyone deserves to know them." Clara swallowed, sensing the gravity in his words. "Who is she?" Damien's jaw tightened. "She was someone I lost. Someone I trusted more than I should have." His voice softened, though a shadow remained. "Evelina, she changed everything. And in losing her, I learned that trust is a dangerous luxury. That is why I am cautious." Clara realized that beneath the icy control, beneath the enigmatic charm, there was pain, vulnerability, a side of Damien he had never shown anyone. And in that moment, she understood something vital. The devil himself was not invincible. He was human, flawed, and the walls he built around himself were born of loss and fear. She stepped closer, unsure why. "I'm not here to betray you," she said softly. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he studied her, as if seeing her for the first time in weeks. "I don't know if anyone can ever really be trusted," he admitted. "But you are different. I don't know if that is a comfort or a complication." Clara felt her pulse quicken. She realized that every word, every glance, every challenge Damien had given her had been a test, not just of her courage, but of her heart. And now, standing in the shadows of his most private world, she understood the dangerous intimacy he had allowed her to share. "I want to understand you," she said, quietly but firmly. For the first time, Damien let a fraction of the wall fall. "Understanding is a dangerous thing," he said. "It makes you vulnerable." "I'm already here," she replied, her voice steady, though her heart raced. He regarded her for a long moment, then turned, walking toward the doorway. "Be careful," he said softly. "The deeper you go, the more you'll see, and some shadows are not meant to be touched." Clara watched him go, feeling the weight of his world settle around her. She understood now that the game was no longer just about obedience or survival. It was about trust, desire, and the slow, irresistible pull of a man who was both her challenge and her temptation. The mansion felt quieter than usual, the hum of city life far below, replaced by the soft tick of clocks and the distant murmur of the river. Clara had grown accustomed to Damien's world, yet no amount of familiarity could ease the tension that coiled between them like a living thing. She found him in the library that evening, seated in a high-backed chair, the flicker of the fireplace casting shadows across his sharp features. He didn't look up when she entered, yet she could feel his gaze tracing her movements, precise, calculating, magnetic. "Clara," he said finally, voice low, "you're still here." Yes, she admitted. "I couldn't sleep." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, fingers steepled. "Most people leave after a few weeks. You've endured more than I expected. You've persisted." His eyes softened slightly, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something beneath the control, beneath the calculated intensity. Respect, maybe even admiration. Clara felt a shiver run through her. "Why do you keep testing me?" she asked. "Why push me so far?" Damien's lips curved into the faintest smile, enigmatic and dangerous. "Because I need to know your limits," he said, "and because I want to see what you are made of." Her pulse quickened. The air between them vibrated with unspoken words, with desire she dared not name aloud. She realized she had come to crave these moments, the tension, the proximity, the invisible thread connecting them. "You are different," he said quietly, almost to himself. "No one has ever endured me like this. No one has ever." He trailed off, letting the sentence hang, unfinished but heavy with meaning. Clara stepped closer, emboldened by the vulnerability in his voice. "What do you mean?" He finally looked at her, the gray of his eyes stormy, intense. "You make me feel things I thought I had buried. You make me—" He paused, swallowing. "Want, and I don't know how to handle it." Her heart raced. The man known as the devil, Damien Blackwell, the untouchable, commanding, dangerous billionaire, was admitting weakness, desire, a crack in his armor. "I'm not here to weaken you," Clara said softly, reaching out as if to bridge the space between them. "I'm here because I care, and I want to understand you." For a long moment he said nothing. Then he leaned back, running a hand through his hair, the faintest sigh escaping him. "You don't know what you're stepping into," he murmured. "If you stay, you risk everything. I am not gentle. I do not do this lightly." Clara's fingers brushed his, tentative, a spark igniting at the contact. "I'm already here," she said, "and I don't want to leave." He stared at her, a mixture of awe, frustration, and longing crossing his features. Finally, he rose, closing the small distance between them. "You have no idea what you've done," he whispered, voice low, almost a growl. "You've broken through every wall I built, and His words faltered, and he inhaled sharply. "I don't know how to stop this." The firelight flickered across them, shadows dancing against the walls. Clara felt the weight of his confession, the danger and thrill of being this close to Damien Blackwell. In that moment, she understood that the line between fear and desire had vanished. The breaking point was not a kiss, nor a declaration. It was the quiet, irresistible pull of two people standing on the edge, hearts laid bare, daring to reach for something forbidden, and neither could retreat. The mansion was quiet, the city below wrapped in the stillness of night. Clara had finished her tasks for the evening, yet sleep eluded her. Something in the air, the soft hum of the fireplace, the lingering scent of cedar and leather, the distant whisper of the river, drew her toward Damien's study. He was there, seated behind his desk, the faint glow of a single lamp casting long shadows across his sharp features. When he looked up, his eyes locked with hers, intense and unyielding, and Clara felt the familiar pull in her chest, the magnetic force that had been building since the day she signed the contract. "You shouldn't be wandering these halls alone," he said quietly. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted, stepping closer. "Neither could you, it seems." He didn't respond immediately, only studied her, the gray of his eyes stormy, unreadable. Then slowly, deliberately, he rose. He moved toward her with a precision that left no space between desire and danger. Clara's breath caught. "Clara," he whispered, voice low, thick with something unspoken. "You've changed everything. You've tested me, challenged me, and now I can't seem to stop noticing you." Her pulse raced. She had felt the tension, the closeness, the silent pull between them for weeks, but hearing it named made it undeniable. "Damien," she murmured. He closed the distance, a hand brushing her cheek, thumb resting lightly against her skin. She felt the warmth, the intensity, and her lips parted without thinking. His gaze flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes, and in that moment words became unnecessary. Slowly, deliberately, he leaned in. The kiss was brief at first, a ghost of a touch, testing, measuring, savoring. Clara's heart thundered as he pulled back just enough to meet her gaze. "You should leave," he said softly, a whisper edged with warning. "But I don't want you to." She reached for him, fingertips brushing his chest. "Then I'm not leaving," she replied, voice steady, though her heart raced with exhilaration. He captured her lips again, this time holding her with careful intensity. The kiss was slow, deliberate, more about the magnetic pull between them than any urgency. It spoke of restraint, of temptation, of weeks of tension finally released, yet still simmering with control. When he finally pulled back, his forehead rested against hers, and he breathed her name, "Clara." There was a softness in his voice that matched the firelight, of vulnerabilities he rarely allowed anyone to see. "I shouldn't," he whispered again, voice low, almost a growl, "but I can't stop." "You don't have to stop," Clara said, heart full. "I want this. I want you." For the first time, Damien's mask of invulnerability slipped entirely. The devil of Vienna, the untouchable billionaire, let himself be human, let himself desire, let himself care. And Clara realized that in this moment the walls they had both built were crumbling, brick by brick, kiss by kiss, until all that remained was them. Two hearts drawn irresistibly together, bound by trust, tension, and the quiet fire of longing. The tranquility of the mansion shattered in a single urgent knock at the front door. Clara, still wrapped in a shawl, opened it to find a man she didn't recognize. His expression panicked, his coat soaked from the rain. He barely had a moment to speak before Damien appeared behind her, eyes dark and sharp, immediately assessing the threat. "What is it?" Damien demanded, his voice calm but commanding, the quiet authority of a man used to control cutting through the chaos. It's her," the man stammered. "They're after her, and they'll use anything to get to him." Clara's stomach twisted. She knew him meant Damien. A ripple of fear ran through her, fierce and protective. Damien's jaw tightened, his usual calm replaced by a rare flash of anger. Without a word, he moved through the mansion with calculated precision, Clara following at a careful distance. The intruders were professional shadows moving through the night with deadly intent. Damien's world, already perilous and exacting, now revealed itself in full. He moved with quiet force, neutralizing threats before they could reach Clara, his every movement precise and controlled. When the danger finally passed, Damien stood in the library, damp hair clinging to his forehead, eyes stormy but alive with relief. Clara ran to him without hesitation, reaching for his arm. "You saved me," she whispered, heart racing. "No," he said, voice low, gravelly. "I saved us." He hesitated, his gray eyes softening slightly. "You should never have been in danger at all." Clara's hands rested on his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heartbeat, the tension in his muscles. "I'm here," she said simply, "and I'm not leaving. Not now, not ever." For the first time, Damien allowed himself a moment of vulnerability. He stepped closer, brushing her hair from her face, and in the quiet, charged space, Clara saw the man behind the devil. The man who protected, who cared fiercely, who feared loss more than any personal consequence. "You've changed everything," he admitted, voice soft but edged with intensity, "and it terrifies me. I am not gentle. I do not let people in. Yet you found your way inside anyway." Clara pressed her forehead against his, her voice steady, her heart full. "I'm not afraid, and neither should you be. Not with me here." For the first time in weeks, Damien smiled fully, though tinged with something bittersweet. "You are remarkable," he whispered. "You deserve light, Clara, not shadows. But you've earned my trust, and I will protect you, no matter the cost." In that moment, the mansion felt warmer, safer, yet charged with unspoken desire. The fire crackled behind them, mirroring the intensity between them, as if acknowledging the unbreakable bond that had formed. Clara realized that the real deal she had made with Damien Blackwell was no longer about survival or obligation. It was about trust, about desire, about two people finding solace, courage, and passion in each other, even amidst fire and danger. And Damien, the man who had always seemed untouchable, finally allowed himself to be human, to feel, to care, and to forgive, starting with himself. The first light of dawn spilled across the mansion, casting gold along the polished floors and glass walls. Clara stood by the window, watching the city awaken beneath her, a strange sense of calm settling over her. A year had passed since she had signed Damien Blackwell's contract. A year that had tested her, terrified her, and yet drawn her closer to a man she never imagined she could understand, let alone care for. Damien entered the room silently, as he always did, but today there was no tension in his steps, no commanding presence to unsettle her. Instead, there was ease, quiet, deliberate, and full of unspoken trust. "You're awake early," he remarked, voice low, almost gentle. "I couldn't sleep," she admitted, turning to face him. "I was thinking about us, about everything." He studied her, gray eyes softer than she had ever seen, and for a moment she caught the flicker of vulnerability he usually masked so carefully. "And what do you see?" he asked, voice quiet but intense. Clara stepped closer, taking his hand in hers. "I see a choice," she said, "not because of obligation, not because of a contract, but because I want to be here, with you." A rare full smile touched his lips, the kind that illuminated the man beneath the devil persona, warm, human, and entirely unguarded. "Then the deal is no longer mine to dictate," he said. "It has become ours, freely chosen. No contracts, no tests, just us." Her heart lifted. The weight that had pressed on her for months, the fear, the tension, the constant uncertainty, seemed to dissolve in that moment. She realized that the true deal had never been about money, survival, or power. It had been about trust, courage, and the willingness to surrender not to weakness but to connection. Damien drew her close, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You've changed me," he whispered, voice low and reverent. "I've always been careful, controlled, untouchable, but you've made me feel alive, and I want more. I want all of it. With you. Clara felt the warmth of his words settle into her chest, the culmination of weeks of tension, desire, and unspoken longing. She rested her forehead against his, feeling the strength and vulnerability coexisting in the man she had come to know, the devil in name, but a man who had become undeniably human in her presence. I want that too, she murmured. And in that quiet, golden morning, the mansion seemed to exhale with them. The contract no longer a chain, but a memory of the beginning, the first step into a life they had chosen together. The devil had offered a deal, but Clara had made the true choice. For the first time, Damien smiled without restraint, without calculation, without walls. He kissed her gently, fully, a kiss that spoke of trust, passion, and the promise of everything to come. The deal had ended, but the story, their story, had only just begun. Months later, the mansion felt alive with laughter, warmth, and ease. Clara moved through it not as a guest or an employee, but as a partner, equal in the world Damien had built. The sharp edges of their first meetings, the tests, and the danger had softened into something enduring, something rare. Mutual respect, trust, and desire. Damien had changed too. The calculated, commanding billionaire who once measured every word and movement now allowed himself to be open, to feel, and to love without reservation. The devil in the whispers of the city had become human in the quiet of his own home, and Clara had been the key. They stood together on the balcony one evening, the city lights below twinkling like stars. Damien's hand brushed against hers, fingers entwining, a quiet promise of partnership and passion. Who knew the devil could be tamed? Clara teased lightly. He smirked, gray eyes glinting with mischief and warmth. I wasn't tamed. I chose this, he said, freely, as did you. And in the quiet glow of the city, with the soft wind around them, they shared a look that needed no words. The life built on trust, desire, and choice stretched before them, limitless and intoxicating. The deal had ended, but the bond, the true deal of hearts and souls, was eternal. The devil had found peace, and Clara had found him. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's story. Good night and sweet dreams.